What's up, Sunday night internet people? We're here, Run Your Mouth Podcast, special edition Sunday episode, because we're supposed to do it Friday, and got too many topics to just be leaving around for Wednesday. I don't even know if we're going to do a Wednesday episode, but you know what? I'm not going to talk about this because we've already committed that announcements are in the middle of the show. So I'll just let you guys sort this out because we're about brevity. We're about getting to the point. We're about not meandering. We're about not trying to find new words to say exactly what you had already said in order to fill more time and just squeeze more ad reads into the show. That's not what we do here. We get right to the point. Brought to you by YoKratom.com, home of the $6 kilo, because we're not meandering. We're not wasting the internet's time. We are bringing them broadcast news quicker, faster, more available than anyone else has ever done it, so that when people click on the show, they're like, wow, this guy gets right to the point. He doesn't waste my time with all sorts of bullshit. He doesn't make announcements. He doesn't do sponsor reads. He doesn't tell you that he's going to be playing in Denver December 21st and Steamboat, Colorado before that. He doesn't waste my time with live reads. He doesn't tell me that he has merch on his website that you have to go buy, robbernsteinmerch.com. He doesn't tell me that you've got a subscription service that you can support as well at robbernsteincomedy.com. This guy gets to the point, and that's why I like him. And so, since, it's an effort to get us to 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year, we're not messing around anymore. This show is dictated by the algorithm. We go to Twitter Grok, we go, what's the most important issues that the people want to hear about, and how quickly can I get them that information, and we hop right to it. So in an effort to not meander and waste the internet's time and to capture the interest of people that have never watched this before but are finding us in the algorithms, let's take some comments. Slop City, not meandering and not wasting time. Most unliquid doozle move of all time. I don't even know what that means. Tim's excited because he gets to actually catch the live stream, even though, typically speaking, he's not able to listen to us during his workday because he works from his home and his wife monitors if he's taking naps or not actually working his job. Gorilla Feet really appreciates the fact that I don't waste time with things like comments, but when I start a show, we get right to it. And Phil, putting it out there, saying, let's go. Let's make it happen. All right, let's get right into it. We do have quite a few news stories, and let's start with this one right here, which is kind of juicy. I've been talking about it. It seems like the United States government is cracking down some pressure on Zelensky so that they'll actually take the best offer from Russia. Seemingly, if the war continues, they're just going to lose more territory anyways. The U.S. doesn't want to just walk away at this point, which they should have just done when they switched from the Biden administration to the Trump administration. Could have just said, that guy was really stupid. That was a dumb war, and we're done with it. But now it's 6 months later, and, Trump's invested in the thing. He's trying to find his way out. And for years, we didn't hear much about Ukrainian corruption, which is probably because the Bidens were entangled to that storyline. And so the media companies, they didn't want to report on it. And it's always been a nice little lingering mystery of just how corrupt that country is and how much of our money is just lining the pockets of billionaires or other people. But here you have it. The New York Times finally reporting that Zelensky's government sabotaged oversight following allowing corruption to fester. And apparently they pulled a couple moves. They were stacking boards with loyalists, and then they pulled this is a great trick. They at some point fired people off of an oversight board so that there wasn't enough people for a quorum of the board, and so the board couldn't do their job. And now all of a sudden everyone's all up in arms. Look at this Zelensky guy. He's empowering these people to grift all the money that we're sending over there and creating financial incentives to keep an unwinnable war going so that these people and his friends and all these grifters can make all this money. Now, I remember, and, I could have gone back to fact check this, but I remember at one point, Rand Paul was pushing for, if we're going to be sending more money over to the Ukraine, at a minimum, we need to have an auditor in place. And I remember that got turned down. Maybe it wasn't quite an auditor, but some sort of an oversight committee. The point I'm trying to make is I don't think anyone was interested in the oversight this entire time. I think this falls into the conspiracy theory that we've previously stated on the show, that it appears as though the same way that mainstream media was selling us on this war and that Russia was going to overtake all of Europe, this is the noble thing that we have to do. We have to take a stand against evil of people crossing borders, something America's never done. You can't just be going into other countries. And now they seem to be shifting gears to looking to circle Zelensky a little bit and apply a little pressure of, hey, listen, you can either take your paycheck cut and run, or we're going to start publishing some news stories about your corruption. So anyways, that's the look I have on this one. Next up, we've got Donald Trump apparently fired the architect that he had in place for the White House ballroom because the guy didn't get how big Donald Trump wanted to go. The guy was like, we can't go this big. And Donald Trump's got to be the biggest ever. And the guy's like, I can't go any bigger than this. And Donald Trump did another line of suit. And he goes, even bigger. And the architect's like, we can't go any bigger. There's no more space. I build it underground, put it up on a crane. I want it even bigger. And I'm hoping, listen, I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen, but if we ended up with the Donald Trump trash heap of America of an unfinished ballroom, because he doesn't get it done in the 3 years that he has left, and then the Democrats come along and they just leave it as a trash heap to forever celebrate Donald Trump's ADD and inability to finish a project. I mean, that would be a fun sight. You put up a nice big plaque, the Donald Trump trash heap of America. I assume we'll get it done. I mean, he's the best ever, the greatest ever, wonderful builder. No one's ever built anything like him. But off to, I guess, a sloppy start that he can't come to terms with his original architect on just how big the ballroom needs to be. We'll cover one more topic, then we'll dip into the comments. Now, Donald Trump seemingly actually made a good move on this one, which is, remember, there's an affordability crisis. It's not that government spent too much money, and that's driving up prices. And if they handed you more free money, that would just drive up more prices. We're done with talking about inflation. What we have now is an affordability crisis that we just need to make more money available to people so that they can go out and purchase those things. And obviously, that's the very stupid way of making things more affordable. But one thing that actually could help make things more affordable is if you dial back really dumb regulations that drive up the cost of goods and services. And sometimes, listen, I'm sure that there's regulations on the books that the private market could do better than the government, but there's some regulations out there that are probably good regulations that if we had to sift through and we go, all right, that one's good. No one can shit on my mouth in a public street corner. That's a good regulation right there. I'm sure the private market could figure out how to keep anyone else from shitting in my mouth on public street corners. But the fact that there's a government regulation that prevents corporations from shitting into my mouth on public street corners, that's a good regulation. I'm not saying the private market couldn't do it. I'm just saying that there's probably some regulations doled out by government that are actually good regulations. And then there's other regulations that make no sense whatsoever and really just drive up the cost of doing business. And so one of the ones that Donald Trump is rolling back is there was a 2050 standard, I think, made by Biden that gas cars had to get, I don't even know how many miles to the gallon, 70 miles to the gallon, something fucking absurd. And I seem to recall reading about this, that a lot of the reasons why the American car manufacturers lose so much money is because all that Americans want are their light trucks that they can look all fancy. You can show up into small parking garages and have your giant truck. Real honest Americans love their giant trucks. And then, moms, they love an SUV. It used to be a station minivan or a station wagon, but now everyone's all about the SUVs. And the point is that as long as gas prices aren't like a $7 or an $8 a gallon, we want some big cars, we want things that are fun to drive, and we want them to be cheaper. But then the government comes around and they go, hey, listen, you guys can't have your fun cars that are fun to drive because that's bad for the environment, and so we got to make sure that they get blank miles to the gallon. And then these companies, they make money on their trucks, and then they got to lose money on other cars so that they can get their average fleet to an even score that hits the miles per gallon law. And then if they can't even do it that way of literally selling cars that lose money because they're more gas efficient when people just want the good trucks that are fun to drive, then they got to go to Elon Musk and go, listen, you're better at grifting this system than we are. Can we buy a couple carbon credits from you? You've got carbon credits because you went for your green energy electric vehicles. So can we buy some credits here? So here you've got Donald Trump. Make America great again. Give people their gas-guzzling vehicles that are fun to drive. I'm going to go invade Venezuela and make sure that your oil's cheap. And if you want to go get some giant Hemi motor and drag race and then get arrested for speeding, but the point is you'll have a fast, cool car. you'll have yourself your giant truck, and I'll make sure that your oil prices are coming down because I'm going to invade everybody and threaten Saudi Arabia until they bring the oil prices down. So, anyways, a lot of moves are bad, but if you actually want to make things cheaper, rolling back regulations that make it expensive sounds like a win. And on that note, it's rumored, I'm sure you guys have all seen it, that pretty cool looking, very standard issue Toyota truck that's like super simple and looks cool. The thing looks cool. It's kind of a small truck, got the back end, no frills on the inside. I think it's a manual, but you can buy that thing for like $12,000, and it looks cool. It doesn't look like a rinky-dinky piece of shit. And so apparently with the changing legislation, we might actually get cheaper motor vehicles like this, and if Donald Trump figured out how to roll back a regulation so that companies can actually provide you with products and services that you want at a cheaper price, we'll give a stamp of victory on that one. Listen, you got to celebrate Trump when he actually gets things right. And if he does that, I give it my full endorsement. All right, let's take a couple of comments here. We've got Lauren, Riv4444. Pardon J6er updates. Emily Hernandez / Shane Woods got 10 to 15 years in prison for lethal DUIs. Andrew Johnson charged with sexual abuse of an 11-year-old. And John Benulas kidnapping, sex assault. I assume that you're highlighting individuals who were rounded up on January 6th and then left and committed other crimes. Is that what that is? USL have 2 daughters in their early 20s. I made sure they supported the same presidential candidates as the January 6 rioters and voted for the person who was found liable for sexual abuses. Now I'm confused. Maybe you can clarify your comments and then we'll read it. Slop City, unfinished trash heap. Isn't that just the symbol for Trump's legacy as a president? I think that was the joke I was making. And then a couple comments. Nothing too exciting. All right, we'll move on to our next storyline. Cooking through this. All right, let's take a look at the latest from what was going on with that boat strike. Everyone's pointing fingers. He did it. He did it. They did it. They did it. The latest excuse is we got the admiral who ordered the September strike, told lawmakers survivors were trying to finish drug run. And this is a fun one. Apparently, they had intelligence that these guys had robotic legs. You all watched Inspector Gadget as a kid, and that once they turned those flippers on, they would have swam all the way to U.S. soil and single-handedly put that fentanyl right into our water supply for some people to have a great day as if they had taken some opioids, and for other people to die right on the spot. I saw it with my own eyes. Just because they were on a shipwrecked boat doesn't mean that they were going to put on their robotic swimmer legs and complete the rest of the journey and bring the drugs into this country. And then you got Pete going, I only watched the first strike. I'm a first strike kind of guy. I can't be sticking around for second strikes. I stuck around for the first strike, and that guy watched the second strike, and then he watched it, and he determined that they were still a threat to the United States of America because even we had taken out their boat, they could still get those drugs there. And I think that's all I got. All right, but let's take a look at some of the other storylines here. The other excuse that they might drum up and is this was from Twitter Grok, and I don't remember what I put here, so we'll have to read it. Maybe Producer Man slid this in after I was already done preparing the episode. Legal backing. Experts like Jeffrey Korn, former military lawyer, noted that if accounts this provides a legitimate explanation for the second strike, as the men did not qualify as unable to fight, e.g., no evidence of injuries preventing threats. And yeah, this was kind of funny to me. This was funny to me because it's like they weren't fighting either way. You were blasting them out of the sky. But once again, even if they were capsized out of a boat, I guess if you could say that they were looking to swim the rest of the ocean and still bring the drugs here, then they were still ready to fight. And since they were still ready to fight, they still had a legal basis for taking them out. On that note, I noticed an article in the New York Post. Coast Guard helicopter sniper takes out narco boat engines, seizes more than 20,000 pounds of cocaine, which is a lot of cocaine. And then I was like, why don't you guys just always do this? And now I'm sure the reason is that this is the actual U.S. Coast Guard, so this must have been closer to U.S. shores. But I guess if you guys are already admitting that if the stuff gets closer to us, we can shoot out the engines, do you really have to explode these other people out in the middle of the ocean? Are you telling me that we can't figure out little drones that you use electronic controls and you get it right up to that boat, and then you just take out the engines. You come by with the helicopter, you round the people up, get some intelligence. Figure out where these other drug lords are. Figure out where this stuff is actually going. But doesn't this kind of showcase that it seems like they might have some other options for figuring out how to keep the fentanyl out of the country? You would think that they would want to keep, like, maybe not do this so that they could pretend the only way to keep the fentanyl out of the country is if we explode boats that weren't even headed for the United States of America. But when you start admitting that when they come close to the United States of America, you got the ability to sniper out the engines and then go round up the people, it seems like you got other options. And then if you just start thinking about all the technology available, and if you really wanted to make sure that no drug boats were coming into the country, that you could probably use some drone technology to really prove where there are and aren't drugs, and then just be taking out the engines. All right, but we do have a couple more things on this. And the next thing we got is this clip from Tom Cotton, because sometimes you really have to respect when a Republican is being a full-fledged Republican. And so here you have it. You know, people, for some reason, they don't mind. If you want to go start a war with Venezuela and pretend it's over drugs, they'll look the other way. If you want to blow up boats of supposed drug dealers without trying them, without proving that they're even coming to the United States of America, without proving that they had drugs on the boat, but you want to be able to sell your war that's supposedly over drugs, and you want to go blow up boats in order to prove to us how much you need to go over there and blow more things up, people will look the other way. But then when you do a double tap strike, everyone's suddenly really pissed off and going, well, once you're blasting someone out of the sky who couldn't defend themselves, once they're in the ocean and no longer on the boat, we can all agree that that's the line. That's where Americans are. Go start a regime change war, make the gas cheaper. They're all for that. Go pretend like it's over drugs and you got to blow up boats. They're all for that. But once the narco-terrorists hit the water, there's rules to this game. It's like tag, and if you're on base, you're on base. And so if we wanted to kill you when you were on the boat, that's fair game. Once you fall out of the boat, that's no longer fair game. And so here you've got Tom Cotton here to comment, because you just got to respect when a Republican's being a full-fledged Republican, and the American people, the newspapers are like, hey, you finally stepped over the line. And here's Tom Cotton defending what happened. It's a clip that appeared in a Hill episode. Let's roll the clip, producer, man. Guy works on Sundays. You know, he's trying to step up his game.
Strikes. The second strike and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful, and they were exactly what we'd expect our military commanders to do.
What exactly did you see in terms of the video of the second strike? Were there survivors?
I saw two survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs down for the United States, back over so they could stay in the fight.
Democratic Senator Chris Coons.
There you go. He's selling it. Those people were still coming to America. All right, we got two more on this, and then I will take some comments. Next one on this was, this is from the Wall Street Journal. Boat strike survived and waived. So this was, you know what? Running off the laptop, I got to figure out the easiest way for me to read these articles without putting my nostrils right in front of the camera. Let's go back there. All right, anyways, mixed reporting from senators who watched the video, with some saying that they were overturning the boat, they wanted to complete their mission, they had robotic legs, and then other people trying to say that they were in the water, basically waving. All right, let's take some comments, and then we can move on to the next topic. All right. We've got Reddenville saying, looking forward to the show at Inga's. Guys, I think there's only 20 tickets left for that. It will sell out, and I think I'm also going to raise the tickets because I didn't think people would show up Sunday at 1 p.m., so I only made them like $15, and I think we're going to go up to the regular 20. So act quick if you're interested. Go to robbernsteincomedy.com and grab some tickets. That show will sell out. It's a very small but cool venue. CPR or something. There's like two channels. It's weird, Robbie. Thinks it will be fixed soon, like we couldn't see Slop City's chat. I don't know what that means. Okay, yeah, there are 2 channels, and at the end of the year, the Run Your Mouth channel will no longer have new episodes. So if you're interested in the content, subscribe to the Robbie the Fire channel. And if you want to support the show and get ahead of paywalled content, you can go to robbernsteincomedy.com, subscribe over there. It's all of $5 a month, and we're going to start doing pre-shows and other paywalled content. Runaway Slav, Trump is going to approve the importation and building of cars that makes Robbie look big. All right, I'll give you that one. That one's fun. That's fun. John Bolton saying he knows I'm not a Fed. Okay. Red Voluted, seems like there would be less expensive ways to handle the boats. I imagine Hellfire missiles aren't cheap. I would imagine that as well. Antlian, Robbie, did you watch Dave vs. Zulu? Not yet, but I will. And then Runaway Slav, Robbie getting soft recently, says not to deport the family of people who only understand collective punishment, and now has feelings for drug peddlers. You know what I take a stand against? It's the government's ability to just label somebody a terrorist and then not have any due process and not have any morality in the way that they engage with individuals, because there's only a matter of time before they turn that on people like us. If they could label anyone with dissenting opinion terrorists, they're information terrorists, and then go round us up, you'd also be cheering them on, going, oh, well, what do you mean, soft on information terrorists? You don't want to just be in line with the regime, and you don't want to advocate for more power for the regime just because something is aligned with your interests. The standards and values are more important than going, let's just throw out all the values that we stand for because on this particular one, it makes sense for me. Because at some point, it will come back for you, all right? The liberals are dealing with that right now. Let's skip this one. It's not that important. It's them complaining that the one big beautiful bill is not that much of a sale. Donald Trump was excited about it. He's like, one big beautiful, and he thought everyone would be like, oh, if it's one big beautiful one, we all like big and beautiful. And now they're realizing they got to change up the name because it's not connecting with people enough. If you want your bill to pass, you need a good name on it. You need it to be the make you feel better bill. The kids will no longer go hungry bill. You need an emotional name. No more cancer in your mother's bill. Are you going to vote against the no more cancer in your mother bill? What do you want, moms to have cancer? This man over here is pro mothers having cancer. And so apparently, Donald Trump, he's losing some of his mojo, and some of it is words just like big and beautiful. It doesn't have the same charisma as it used to, and people on the Republican side are starting to contend with the fact that they have to actually rename the bill. Now, let's move on to, apparently, they found the January 6th suspect. You had, who was it? The Blaze had put out that they used gait analysis, and they thought that it was a security guard who worked over at the CIA campus. Apparently, that guy had an alibi, and so it wasn't him. And now, years later, they suddenly found the guy. And who amongst us predicted that it was going to be a black Republican, autistic, contested the election, and that Fox News would be reporting on the incident? Let's roll a clip, and you guys can tell me if you're buying this story. Roll it.
He is talking to federal investigators, and multiple sources briefed say that he expressed doubts about the 2020 presidential election results and again admitted that he planted the devices. Yesterday, investigators spent the majority of the day outside his home in a Washington, D.C. suburb. For nearly 5 years, agents visited more than 1,200 homes, businesses, did more than 1,000 interviews, reviewed 39,000 video files. John Sandra, a $500,000 reward was on the table, but that is not what cracked this case. According to authorities, cell phone pings indicate that his cell phone was in the area of the RNC and DNC the night of the crime, January 5th, 2021, the night before the Capitol riot, just hours before Joe Biden was certified as president the next day, and receipts show that Cole purchased bomb-making materials. The 2 pipe bombs did not detonate, and they were rendered safe. They could have been lethal, as we await this court hearing to start momentarily.
And apparently the guy, I think he's cooperating. I believe he even confessed. And now this is from the same clip, but we can listen to our favorite. If you're ever concerned about a storyline, what's more comforting than Pam Bondi's shrieky voice? Let's hear what Pam Bondi had to say about the incident.
No one did anything to solve this. A new team gathered on this case. Old evidence, new people, great police work. That's all it is. Good old-fashioned police work. And it solved a case that right from where I'm sitting, this bomb was planted at the RNC, a pipe bomb, at the DNC. They were real. Thank goodness they didn't detonate.
We start off our coverage this Friday after.
There you go. No one's more concerned than the Trump administration. And it's just because the incompetence of everyone who worked at the FBI under Biden, that they were using all of their resources going after January 6 people, that they just decided not to. There was no cover up here. It's just the incompetence of the last administration that they didn't want to look into this. And suddenly we just looked down. We actually did the police work. We found the guy. No problem. Here's Thomas Massey on it. And Thomas Massey had to say 3 things I'll never believe about the January 5th, 6th pipe bomber story. 1, the bomber was a lone wolf. 2, the FBI was this incompetent that for 4 years on a case this consequential. And 3, the perpetrator was pro-Trump. So there you go. If you're doubting this storyline, you are in good company with Thomas Massey. All right, let's take a couple of comments. And as always, episodes brought to you by YoKernum.com, home of the $6 kilo, and go support sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code RYM. You get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. Runaway Slav. Those narcos don't have opinions, values, or morals, though. I know, and that's the true of every single person in the United States of America who gets accused of murder. Because if they're accused of murder, then clearly they don't have the same morals and values as we do. So we shouldn't even have a judicial system at all, because once they're accused of it, they don't have the same values as us. And so why would we reward them with actually proving their guilt? Yeah, because you're a statist and you love shilling for powerful regimes, taking more power and infringing on our freedoms. And you'll do it for a topic as stupid as, oh, well, those are narco-terrorists. Donald Trump said they're narco-terrorists. So if we can expand the power of the state into the category, what else have they tried to throw terrorist terms for? Remember domestic terrorism under Biden? Oh, well, those people don't have the same values as honest Americans. They're willing to contest an election. Surely they shouldn't have any due process whatsoever. We shouldn't even need to prove that they went into a building. All right. Atlian, why is nobody liking the stream? Helps Robbie in the algo. Yeah, go like the stream, everybody. See, Cunt Junk, that's a great name. Give your opinion on the Reuben sandwich and how you recommending sprucing it up. All right, the Reuben is an excellent sandwich. Now, personally, and this is a mistake. The first time I had a Reuben, it was with pastrami, and I always thought that was the Reuben, but on a technicality, that's actually referred to as a Rachel. Now, if you're not familiar with the Reuben or the Rachel, it should include sauerkraut. It should include Swiss cheese, I believe. I think it's a Swiss cheese. Russian dressing, and it should be on a good rye bread. It's an excellent sandwich. Personally, I'm not a big fan of mayo across the board. I used to make really good deli sandwich, and I was all for mayo. I understand why people like mayo. It just at some point I realized it kind of makes me fart. And like, who needs more egg and it's just white and it like I don't know. There's just something weird about mayo, and that like it's like a little bit like too cheap and easy. That it's like a cheat code for deliciousness. That you almost want to take that away so that you can focus on other things to make your sandwich more delicious. The one exception to that rule is that if I do find myself in a situation where I'm eating a Reuben or a Rachel, you want the Russian dressing for it. Personally, I don't eat cheese, but, you know, if you're not lactose intolerant, I'm not here to tell you that that sandwich is better without cheese. Do I have any hacks for making that one more delicious? Not really. I think I'd still go, even though it's got the Russian dressing, I think I can't even remember last time I had one of those, but sometimes, you know, I could actually dip out on, personally, I can dip out on the Russian dressing and just go for like a really good brown mustard on there. That works. And then, even with the Russian dressing, I don't see any reason why hot sauce or a jalapeno pepper wouldn't groove well with that sandwich. And listen, anytime you guys want advice on how to make your lunch more delicious, you know, I'm always here for you. Robbie, what's your opinion on sauerkraut? I love sauerkraut. I wish I didn't because Weird Al Yankovic has a great song, Closing Out, Running with Scissors. It's got a 12-minute song, I Hate Sauerkraut. It's a hilarious song. I enjoyed that song as a kid. And then I remember one time, the first time I tried sauerkraut, I was like, fuck, this is delicious. And I felt almost guilty for liking sauerkraut because of how much I appreciated that earlier song. Now, I very rarely eat sauerkraut. It's pretty rare. Don't have sauerkraut in my house. I'm not like seeking out sauerkraut, but like a kielbasa with sauerkraut, pastrami with sauerkraut. It's a lot of things. If you got the sauerkraut, it blends well with it. And if you're going sauerkraut, brown mustard, it pairs well. Particularly like, dude, if I eat a hot dog maybe once a year, and the last time I ate a hot dog, this was delicious. I went with, I was making guac dogs. Someone had guac. I was loading up the guac on top of the hot dog, and maybe throwing some hot sauce on there. That was perfect. But sauerkraut and mustard. If you're going to eat a hot dog, firstly, you don't really want a hot dog. You want more of like a sausage. You want like kielbasa, or you want like one of like those big. You want a girthy dog. You know what I mean? I don't want like a ballpark hot dog. That's disgusting. I want like a good girthy dog, and then I want to put a spicy brown mustard on there with some sauerkraut, and that is the proper way to eat a hot dog. But the guac dogs were good. I'll vouch for a guac dog. All right, let's continue with our Venezuela storyline. So I had skipped this in the last episode. We didn't get to it because I was having Steven, the Wonder Boy non-scientist, on. We're supposed to have him back on Wednesday to kind of give us a briefing on some of the new vaccine stuff going on, but I'm not sure if the Wednesday timing's still going to work out because I got editing to do, and it's the middle of the show, so I could tell you the announcement. I could delve in. I could go off about it, but I'm not going to. Anyways, Venezuela and world will be far better off with the Maduro regime gone, and so here you have it. You've got your mainstream media organizations preaching us on why we need regime change with these countries. But now, this was something that I had mentioned months ago, or maybe a month ago, on the Run Your Mouth podcast. There was a Zero Hedge article that was saying that Maduro basically had just offered to leave the country. He offered to give all the resources over, and for some reason, we're still pushing for war. I don't understand. Just take the deal. Take the deal. This is the best and cheapest way for future dictators. You let them know, hey, listen, we're going to come blazing, and you're going to end up with poles up your ass or being hung, and your country's going to go to shit. Or you can just leave with all your money, let us come in and take all the shit that we were going to pretend was in the name of democracy, and it's a win-win. Go build an indoor Epstein Island for them with the girls overage and, I don't know, wherever you're going to send them. Qatar? Wherever you're sending these people. Just have the old dictator's palace of Qatar, where you convince these people it's the easy way or the hard way. Zelensky can live there. Maybe Netanyahu can go there. You get Maduro going over there. It would be the world's greatest reality show, is what's going on inside of Dictator Palace out in Qatar. All right, but let's read what we got here. Washington, U.S. officials are discussing allowing Venezuela's socialist strongman Nicolas Maduro to live out his days in luxury in one of the richest countries. The Post has learned as President Trump's bombing campaign against alleged drug boats could soon hit closer to South America's shores. A senior Trump administrator source said Secretary of State Marco Rubio has floated allowing Maduro 63 to locate to Qatar as gas emirate mediate the conflict. All right, so once again, you got more people reporting on the idea that there could be a deal. And now here you've got Fox News. I'm not going to play this whole thing because it's long. It's like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It's worth watching the whole thing because this feels like Iraq War. They got the graphics of all the cool ships, all the cool military equipment. They're throwing around the word narco-terrorist with suckers like Slav just buy right into. Oh my God, Trump used the word narco and terrorist. Clearly we need to drum up a war over this. I mean, those are two cool words, narco and terrorist, and bombs are involved. All right, so anyways, let's roll the clip. You can go find this. You can watch the whole thing. You can see all the Fox News graphics of them really getting after it and selling a war. But here you have them, full smiles, reporting the fact that a deal was offered to Donald Trump, that Maduro would leave, but that Donald Trump's not taking the deal. Let's roll the clip.
According to the New York Times, Maduro offered us a dominant stake in Venezuela's oil, gold, and mineral wealth and promised to cut ties with Russia and China. And Trump and Rubio said no. That tells me the gunboat diplomacy is going to end up with no Maduro and a Venezuela aligned with us, not Putin or Xi. American action in Latin America hasn't always ended well. Look at the Bay of Pigs. Other times, it's a piece of cake. It's our backyard. And Trump's just reestablishing the Monroe Doctrine, a.k.a. the Dunroe Doctrine.
There you go. Guys, we need a war with Venezuela, because if not, we're going to have Russia and Iran and China right at our shores. This is the way America's always operated. It's not just about narco-terrorism. It's about showing the world that we kick ass and we can dominate North America. And so even if Maduro wants to take the deal and we can have all the oils, we can have all the minerals, we cannot have a war that could go in disaster, but they don't always go in disaster. It could go into disaster. We're not taking that deal because we got to let everyone know that we kick ass. All right, Robbie, if a restaurant forces you to clean dishes before you can't pay for your meal, is that moral? If a restaurant forces you to clean dishes because you can't pay... Oh, I read it wrong. Robbie, if a restaurant forces you to clean dishes because you can't pay for your meal, is that moral? I mean, I guess unless you're offering some other solution for the unpaid for meal, I don't know. What's the riddle in this? Sure, maybe, I don't know. You offer to come back tomorrow and pay the bill, and now they're shoving you into the kitchen, and are they saying that you got to clean dishes for the next 10 years, and now you're a slave to there? Or is it just a gesture of that you got to be there for 2 hours? I don't know. That doesn't... What are you getting at? You prefer yes or no? I'm not sure what the question is. Philip D. Roll, doesn't matter what we all say. These elites are going to do what they're going to do, but we're going to do... What are we going to do? Vote them out? There you go. Philip D. Roll wants to know, how are they forcing you to let them wash dishes? And Runaway Slav Fang, maybe just don't let blacks into your restaurant if you don't want people skipping on the bill. Slav, is that only an issue with blacks? Jews don't do that? No, there's no other minorities that would do such a thing. All right, let's highlight 2 more stories. Let's call it a day, and then possibly back Wednesday for another episode. If not, I don't know, sometime down the line. All right, this was an article in the Wall Street Journal that, and this seems like a smooth move. Somehow Donald Trump worked out a deal with Mexico to send a whole bunch of their drug lords that are sitting in prison in there over to United States prisons, which I guess will give them the ability to interrogate them and potentially take on more of the drug criminal enterprises in Mexico. That's a quick recap. I read that a couple days ago. Maybe you guys will come through and say this isn't harsh enough, or some of you have the inside scoop on why this is terrible and that they're actually going to waterboard these people. At face value, I don't know how he exerted pressure on the Mexican government to give over these people, and seemingly having them in American prisons and potentially being able to cut deals with them and turn off financing or otherwise undermine those operations. It doesn't sound like anything to criticize, at least from what I remember from the article. Last one for today. Massachusetts church sparks controversy with empty nativity scene and ICE enforcement message politicizing Christmas. And so I'm not a Christian, so I don't know who's missing from this scene. Maybe it's Mother Mary, maybe it's Jesus, but I did just think that's hilarious to have the empty scene with the little sign that says ICE was here, as if ICE had collected Christmas baby Jesus. Listen, how mad are you going to be when someone has a good joke? There's nothing I hate more than a church that's got a gay pride flag parade in front of it, because I'm like, let the gays go anywhere else. I'm all for you wanting to be gay, but why does the church have to embrace gayness? Go be a church. The gays are living their truth. You as a church should live your truth. But in this case, I mean, a good joke's a good joke. Got to respect a good joke. All right, last article for today. For anyone who is excited and thinking that even though they messed up the first time they tried to bring the case against Comey, and you're like, they're going to get him. They're going to get him. That was only the first try, and sure, they messed up with a temporary prosecutor, but Donald Trump, nobody's better at getting things done than Donald Trump. No one does it bigger. No one does it greater. No one has more common sense. They're going to get it done. And who knows, maybe they still will get it done. But the latest is that apparently a federal judge has now blocked rebringing the case on apparently that they violated not having a warrant and that apparently they originally had a warrant for this guy's computer, but I guess there's a time lapse on that warrant. How do you guys read? Is this corruption of the federal judge, and they should have been able to get all these files that apparently are evidence of Comey's criminal behavior? Or is this, once again, Donald Trump being sloppy? And I know it's not actually Donald Trump. It's just the people he actually hires to go do things that he deem important. But for anyone who was real excited and thought that they were going to get the Comey thing done, which they still might, apparently, as of late, it has hit another roadblock. All right, that is our episode. I hope you guys enjoy your work Monday. I hope you wake up early. I hope you take a nice, big, healthy dump. I hope you follow that up with a delicious breakfast. I hope you show up to your office and you find out there's not a whole lot that you need to do, and you can go and take an early lunch. And then you use all that savings and you spend it on t-shirts or a subscription on my website. That's the episode.